Well, it's Wednesday, and it's time for another Q&A here on OTRSCentral. Thanks to you guys that submitted your questions for the Q&A. I appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoy my answers to some of your questions. So, without any further ado, let's get started. Mr. Fantastic11 asks, which retirement speech, if any, choked you up the most? Ric Flair or Shawn Michaels? I don't think either one of those really choked me up at all. I think the one that I felt bad for the guy would be Edge. That was the one that was a little bit more of a bummer to me than, let's say, a Flair or a Michaels. Because Flair or Michaels, it was their time, whereas Edge probably could have legitimately felt, and his fans most certainly could have legitimately felt, that he still had more time. And, that's the one that I would sit there and say, if it bummed me out, would be maybe the way to put it, it would be Edge, actually. Dexter C73, does the WWE have any redeeming qualities right now? Perhaps the hope that guys like Reigns and Ambrose and Rollins and Wyatt can become big stars. It's hard. It's hard to come up with a lot of redeeming qualities right now, frankly. I mean, I really mean that. I guess some people might say is that the match quality in WWE is perhaps close to an all-time high. So if you're into, the in-ring aspects of it, it's not always the worst company to watch. Production levels are good, even though I think some of the presentation of their product is bad and repetitive and dull. But yeah, a lot of redeeming qualities. It's hard for me to come up with. And there's some. There's some, I guess. Trey on 13. Why does Seth Rollins say he created the Shield when Roman Reigns kept the song, the entrance, and the attire of the Shield? Yeah, it's a fair question, I guess. I don't know where the whole thing of Rollins being the architect of the Shield what came from when, at first it was Ambrose was the guy that was going to be the big star out of the group. Then eventually it transitioned to Reigns was becoming the focal point of the group. To all of a sudden, Rollins is the architect of the group. I don't really get that. Let's see here. WWE 961. When should a LOD Dudley Boys match have happened? 2002 2003 is the best time I can think of it. Yeah, I mean, it would have been great if they could have had, one big match at a big pay-per-view or one big program there in 2003. That would have been pretty damn cool, pretty damn special, and that would have been a perfect time to do it, as LOD was maybe positioning themselves for one last run, and the Dudley Boys were one of the franchise piece tag teams, if you will. If there was a time to do it, it would have been in that time frame, no question. Blind Finn asks, who do you think are the top 5 WWE superstars in the last 15 years other than Austin, Rock, Triple H, Taker, and Cena? Other than those guys, top 5 stars would be in no necessarily particular order. I think you would obviously have to go with Shawn Michaels, Randy Orton, Edge. Do I really want to put CM Punk in that list? I don't know. I mean, might have said like Chris Jericho, perhaps. And to please a lot of you, I'll throw in CM Punk. What the hell? Num One Face. Would you ever want to run TNA or WWE? No desire, no aspirations to that, no hope to ever do that, no want to ever do that. Hell no. Would never want to run a wrestling company today. Are you kidding me? And will you ever make SmackDown reviews again? Probably not. In order to do SmackDown reviews, I'd have to start watching the product, and I can tell you this much, switching to Thursday nights starting in October during football season would not be a way to get me to start watching SmackDown so I could potentially review it. I need to watch less wrestling, not more, frankly. So, no, I don't anticipate doing SmackDown reviews anytime soon. EJC8713, when will OTRSCentral stop being an 80s mark? When the internet stops marking out for the same fucking guys who are the same fucking way, wrestle the same type of matches, and look the fucking same. Oh, that's never going to happen, so I'm not going to do it either. Shut the fuck up. Awesome question. When will I stop being an 80s mark? I didn't know I was solely an 80s mark. I guess you could say if there's one thing I'm a mark for more so would be the 80s, but I didn't think I was solely an 80s mark. That's not going to happen. That's the era that I grew up with. That was a golden era for the WWE. Why the fuck would I ever stop being a mark for that era? You know, if the WWE did shit better now, maybe I could be a little bit more of a mark for the current product. Just saying. Um, let's see here. Edsel 4. Who would you like to see Kurt Angle feud with if he returned to WWE? Daniel Bryan, Rusev, Cena, or any other wrestler you would like? Rusev could work. I'm not sure that's the best thing. I could see why some people would want to see Daniel Bryan. Frankly, I don't have much interest in seeing him feud with John Cena. I guess you could have a feud between him and Swagger. Perhaps. I think you would want to do one of these things with Angle where you would want to use him, obviously, to help create some new guys. And I think a Cesaro would be a great dance partner for a Kurt Angle. Like I said, maybe a Daniel Bryan would be a really nice dance partner, but then you've got to flip Kurt Angle heel, which might be a challenge in and of itself. You could do Bray Wyatt, perhaps, you know. That would be something different. That could potentially work. Dean Ambrose could potentially work. But again, are you going to flip Dean Ambrose heel when there's no reason to? Are you going to flip Kurt Angle heel when it would be a really uphill climb to do so? I mean, there are some potential dance partners out there, and in a limited role, and Angles could still have some value to the WWE, sure. Michael G. Murray 1. Do you think WWE nowadays would benefit from a Saturday night main event-like event as a build-up show to the Big Four shows? Yes, absolutely. And no question about it. You know, I wish they still had them. Get away from a couple of the pay-per-views on the WWE network. I'd like to see a couple of those Saturday night main event shows. Problem with that is, though, is that you know, Raw is 3 hours every week, and then you got SmackDown, and do you really need to add another show into the mix? You know what I'm saying? I mean, the wrestling marketplace is very oversaturated with product. That's not a good thing. And I don't think adding yet another thing to do without taking away several things would be the right way to go. Let's see here. Burn Notice 3216. Why was Raw such a chore to watch this week? I kind of felt like, honestly, it was one of those things where they had so many different people that weren't going to appear outright on the show that they just kind of threw in the towel and kind of decided that it was already going to be a loss, so you might as well just take your lumps and move on. Um, it was a chore to watch. I'm sorry. You know, you've got a lack of star power, some top storylines that aren't all that interesting, you know, frustrations from people with the way certain guys are being utilized. You know, it's tough. It just wasn't that, to borrow from Mr. Ross, it just wasn't that entertaining. It wasn't. I mean, at least do something fun. It was like the show was lacking in fun factor. You know, sometimes that's important to have some fun factor in the show and do some spontaneous stuff. And it just felt like a lot of the same old formatting, the same old bullshit. And that's why it was such a chore for me to watch. And I think in general right now, for me, I can only speak for me specifically, but I might not be the only one. Now, you know, I'm not into some of the top storylines in the WWE. Football season and fantasy football season right around the corner. I know from my standpoint, I've started working out. I'm running every day, so I'm getting very involved in that. I'm doing some different races throughout the next couple of months to get myself ready for 2015, where I hope to be a lot more competitive as I get myself really back into shape. So there's all these different things that are kind of pulling at me and grabbing my focus and attention, and I think that's part of the reason why Raw has felt like such a chore for me to watch the past couple of weeks, I'm just not as interested because of other things, frankly. And they're not doing a very good job of providing me with enough fun factor to sit there and say, hey, you need to watch this. And to be fair, too, I think one of the reasons that I haven't really pointed it out that much, but maybe the reason Raw and wrestling is becoming more of a chore for me to watch is because I'm primarily watching it by myself now. It is not as fun watching it by yourself as opposed to with a group of people because you can find things to have fun with. It could be an event. Me watching Raw right now is not an event. It's just sitting down and watching a 3-hour show every single week. So that's why it feels like a chore for me to watch. At WWE Fan 2312 closes out this Q&A by asking, would you say that Cena buried the Wyatt family on Raw? As opposed to the feud that they had earlier this year, I don't see where what he did on Raw with them would be any more of a burial than what had already occurred. I won't even go so far as it being a burial. It's just more of the same old crap. The problem with John Cena is that John Cena doesn't tell a story at all, period. The problem for WWE with John Cena is that they present John Cena in a way that tells no story at all. Here he is, 8 days off of the ass kicking of a lifetime with no marks, no bruises, no scars, no bandages, no limp, no selling of anything. Sitting there talking about he's going to beat this guy's ass, and instead of placing some doubt or making him, seem to be hurt or anything, he just steamrolls through the Wyatt family like it's no big deal. There's no story there. Absolutely none. And for all the excuses and all the things that people say about Cena and the WWE and why this guy gets a split reaction, and again, that's not good. The problem is that we're not given a reason as fans to get engaged with the guy. We're not given reasons to like the guy. It's not just because he's not a 5'10", 200-pound vanilla midget that does flips and kicks. That's not it. It's not because just that he's the franchise piece of the WWE. That's not it. It's what's done within the confines of WWE with John Cena, how he's marketed, how he's presented, how he's pushed, how everything always comes back to him, how everything with Cena is very repetitive and it feels like the same old shit. Is that every fucking year you could sit there literally in the middle of the year in WWE, one year, cut it off, not watch it for a year, come back, and you feel like you're watching the same shit because John Cena's in the same freaking spot. It's just, and the whole thing is he does nothing as a character to get you engaged. He does nothing as a character to get you emotionally invested, and that is fact. There is no journey. There is no consequence for anything for John Cena. And again, as is so often the case, the WWE misplays their hand. Now Brock Lesnar is the babyface and John Cena is the heel because finally somebody in Brock Lesnar overcame the obstacle that was freaking John Cena. It's very clear to see. It's very understandable how it happens. And it's an unintended consequence that should have been totally foreseen by the WWE. How stupid can you be? Anyways, so thanks to all of you that submitted your questions for this Q&A. I'll be back Friday with the Facebook Friday Q&A. Make sure you check out some other content the rest of the week here on OTRS Central. See you later.